Go on, people.
Benvenuti a tutti.
Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode of Black Screen Finance. My name is Nikis.
My name is Ralph, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about budgeting and money management.
For those of you guys who tuned in last week to Black Screen Finance, we went over briefly the importance of having a budget and also helping to structure yourself from a financial standpoint. You know, it helps with your short-term and your long-term financial goals.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So with that being said, I'm going to ask everyone a question, right? Now, would you ever jump into your car and go to a place that you've never been before without a GPS?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
So why would you do that with your money, right? I would never do that. So just to kind of run it back a little bit, the definition of a budget is literally a roadmap. The roadmap, for example, if you have a goal of hitting $1,000 at the end of the month and to have that, the budget actually allows you to see exactly how you're going to get there.
And surprisingly, you know, we did some research and at least 58% of Americans don't have $1,000 in their savings account, which is bizarre, you know.
That's crazy.
You know, so what we try to do and what we hope to do is kind of help to take you guys on a financial journey so you guys can literally break down, you know, how your money is being spent, you know, and also all your money is being allocated. And if you guys tune into the rest of the video, we actually have a surprise for you guys where we created a formula, and then it's also going to be based for families, you know, and then also for individuals who have, you know, are single. So at the end of the day, everyone can partake, and it's very simple and easy. And, you know, it's going to help you guys definitely for your structuring your finances.
Yeah, and like he said, it's going to be nice and easy. Budget is really simple if you make it as simple as possible. There's going to be instructions in there in terms of what you need to fill out and everything as well. So our job is to make this journey for you as easy as it can be, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And
the biggest thing is just consistency. You know, if you stay consistent with it, you definitely see the results. You know, we've helped a lot of people, you know, and we've seen the turnaround. So if you stick with it, you can definitely see the results.
So we just finished talking about the definition of budgeting. And in my experience, I've seen a lot of people struggle with budgeting. What do you think that some of those struggles lay around, Nikis?
So I think for each person, it varies, right? Because everyone's different in their own way. But overall, with most of the people that I've had the privilege to work with and coach, a lot of people think saving money is actually budgeting, you know?
Saving, guys, is not budgeting.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the number one concerns that I have with people. So they're like, but I'm saving, you know, this X amount of money. Yeah, you are saving X amount of money, but at the same time, if you literally take the time, you know, to break down where your money is going, then you'll see that, oh, wow, you know, I have the ability where I can save a lot more, and I free up money where I can invest. The other thing too is consistency. You have some people that they'll start, and then after a while they'll just stop or fall off, right? And then the big thing too that a lot of people got to pay attention to is miscellaneouses. You know, miscellaneous. I think one of my favorite individual that I like to watch, her name is the Budgetista. You know, she always says you can't go on the shelf and buy miscellaneouses, and as a result, yeah. So as a result, you have to define all your miscellaneouses, because some people miscellaneous is like $500. Like, you know, so you got to break it down so you can see in real time, like, what are you spending your money on. So those are like a couple of the things that, you know, I think that, you know, as to why people struggle.
And to build onto that, right, the biggest thing that I find people really care about, or what people avoid budgeting from, is because they're scared. So a lot of emotions is built into it, right? Mm-hmm. Some of the times it's hard to see. I mean, you lay out your financial statements or your bank statements and you see that, hey, I spent $300 at the bar in one night. Like, what are you spending that money on? So sometimes people, what tends to happen is people are kind of scared to kind of look at exactly where all their money is going. And because of that, it kind of keeps them away from budgeting, right? So that's one of the biggest things. Now, the other thing is also planning. If you don't actually have a set plan in terms of being able to say, all right, cool, I'm going to spend $100 doing this, I'm going to set money aside to do that, then what happens is you're just freestyling as you're living your life, right? And at the end of the month, what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to give it an accurate estimation of what should be in there. You're kind of just going to pull up your bank account, and whatever's in there is in there, because you don't have a plan for it.
And I think that's well said. You know, so at the end of the day, if you want to improve financially, I can't stress it enough. whether it's investing, whether it's saving, or whether you have a certain goal or a target that you want to hit, it has to start with a budget. And for us, there's a reason why we always say is before we get into any form of investment, whether it's buying a house, whether it's the stocks and the option. I know a lot of you guys are asking about that. We have to help and ensure that you guys have that foundation first. That way, if anything goes wrong, you guys can always know that, okay, we can fall back on this. And budgeting is the way to start. And that's why we decided to kick off our program. That's where we want to start and help you guys build that way. So I think it's important for us to kind of like take the time to kind of explain like how we got into budgeting. So for you, like, how did budgeting became a thing for you, or when did you kind of realize that budgeting is important?
So this story is hard to tell for me, mostly because I had to learn it the hard way. So basically, about I want to say it was 5 years ago, started getting my first corporate job. Didn't have really many expenses, so I was able to go ahead and put money in a savings account as I was getting paid, and I could put a good chunk of money in there each time I got paid. So it was sizable, I would say. If I had to be specific, it was about $30,000 that I had saved in there.
Okay.
Right. And this is where I got to stress again that, savings or putting money in a savings account is not budgeting, because I had, like I said, about 5 years ago, I had 30,000 sitting in there. Now, when the budgeting piece really hit me, when I figured that I really started looking into better managing my money, ways to structure myself so that, I could keep it and grow it, is that about maybe 6-7 months after I remember looking at that amount, I looked again into the same account and I had almost half of that in there, right? And I had nothing to show for it at the time. There's nothing now that I could lift up and say, hey, this is what I had.
So there was like no major purchases that you could have said like, yo, I did this or I did that, nothing?
No, I have nothing tangible to say that, hey, this is what I spent that money on. I don't know what happened to it, to be honest.
Yeah, and then when you look at it, depending on like how your mindset is, you still look at it, well, I still got a lot of money saved up, I still got like what you call rainy day funds and stuff, saved up. But in reality, like if you're managing your money, keeping track of your money, you probably have that plus some, so that's a good example that you painted, man.
Yeah, and again, at the time, the emotions piece of it, it's probably what held me back, and as I was depleting from the funds, because I didn't want to see where that money was going. But once I decided to take that emotion out and started looking at, all right, Ralph, where did that money go? All right, going forward, let's make sure this doesn't happen again. That was a big realization moment for me. But,
so what did it look like? What did that transition from, not managing your money, just putting money away and then it's depleting, to now you're managing your money? Like, what was that transition like?
It was some work, right? So basically what that looked like, I said, well, Ralph, you don't really know much right now. So I started doing things like YouTube, right? I started buying books, listening to different people talking about ways that they do it.
Podcast, right?
Exactly. Podcasts. Just trying to find different ways to help me build that structure, because one, I was embarrassed to even reach out to anyone and ask them at the time, because again, like I didn't want to tell this story at the time. I can say it now because I'm in a different situation now, right? So now I got that structure where I wouldn't run into those problems.
So question for you, what's your favorite podcast? Is it Blacc Finance?
It's Blacc Finance. What else is there?
No, so that's good, man.
But what about you, man? What got you into it?
So I wasn't in your position, so but just to give you guys some context, actually when I first started that same corporate job, me and Ralph, we started at the same location, so that was pretty cool to see that 6 years later we're in this position that we're currently in. But where budgeting is concerned, I was always a saver. Since I was a kid, I would always be putting money aside. If any one of my family members need money, they could always be like, hey, we don't got money, but you can go ask Nikas, So I was always that guy. So for me, I always knew the value of stacking, right? But at the same time, I didn't know why I was stacking and how I was stacking. So I never had that roadmap to how I was getting there, but I'll get there. But at the same time, there was no structure to it. So for me, when I graduated college and I got my first apartment, I moved in with my current wife, and we had all these bills, and she was doing her thing and I was doing my thing. And it was just always a struggle because, she probably would have more expenses, and then I had less expenses, and then she would have as much money to save. So we had to figure out a way how to come together. So I was just like, you know what? It's important if we could consolidate our account, but at the same time balance it where it's even and it's not leaving a lot of burden on her. And then I'm over here with a lot of money as well, you know, just chilling. So I didn't think at the time it was fair for her to split things 50-50. So I was just like, let's come up with a game plan. So that's when I took the time when I started doing research as well. And we put a plan in place where, you know, so whatever percentage of the money that I made, you know, I'll put that percentage towards her expenses. That way she can have money to save as well. So kind of help the balance the relationship as well. So
the black screen way.
yeah. So, you know, we develop like an Excel sheet, and then we kind of make it a way where, you know, everything is automated, and we created different bank accounts and stuff like that to make sure that things were smooth and easy. And that's how I kind of transitioned. But before, when I was doing my own thing, you know, I never ever thought about like doing all of that. But once I kind of paired with my wife, I saw the importance of just making sure that I break it down where it's fair across the board. So that's how I kind of got into, you know, really structured, automated, you know, budgeting.
So then if you had to look at the difference between you back then and you now, what do you think is the biggest difference?
I think the difference is, one, I was okay, you know, when I go in, and one of like the biggest eye opener I had was I would always have a good chunk of money in the account, right? But at the same time, when I really stepped back and I started budgeting, I look at how much money I spend on entertainment, right? On average, I had, you know, one of my close friend, you know, we were literally going out almost every weekend.
I've been there.
Every weekend. And then when you look at the amount of money you spend, especially, you know, just being Jamaican, when you go out, you want to make sure you get a clean outfit every week to the events that you
Fresh.
go to, right? And then also when you look at it, gas. When you look at it, when you have to buy the bottle, because people, you know, your friends know like, yo, you got a certain amount of money, so they're like, okay, you know, you got the bottle or whatever the case, we already split the bottle. When you add all that up, and we always try to go to New York too,
Of course.
so you pay a premium for that. When you add all that up, it becomes very, very, very expensive. You're looking at average, like we would say, like say $300 a week. You know, when you tally that up, you're probably talking probably like, you know, $10,000 to like $11,000. You know, on average that you spend in a year. So, you know, it became very surreal for me, and I was just like, you know what, I can't be spending that much money on entertainment, and I'm not getting. I get something from, but
It's temporary.
yeah, it's temporary. So how am I going to build myself up long term? So that's kind of like when I scale back and say, you know what, I need to lock in and try to look at, you know, building that generational wealth, you know, building that legacy, not for myself, but for my family, my little kid that I got coming up.
Yeah, and we say all of this to say basically is that we didn't start with the most knowledge or with the most structure in terms of how to handle our finances, but we could be in a situation where you might be right now, where you know, you may not be the best, but there's room for growth, and there's ways for you to get there, and that's what we're all about, and that's the journey that we want to take you on.
And feel free to ask questions, man. Send us messages. Like I said, anything we can do to help, you know, we're here for that.
Absolutely, and if you find there's specific ways that helps you budgeting, just let us know. Leave a comment at the bottom, and kind of just continue to help the community grow that way.
I promised you guys earlier on in the video, you know, if you guys sticked around, we took the opportunity to create two variation of a budget sheet for you guys. So for individuals who are single, you know, we're gonna leave our email in the description below, so you could just type single in the subject line. And if you guys are a family with like dual income, you could just type family in the subject line as well. And what's the name of our budget sheet?
The black screen budget sheet.
Yeah, and then also, like, you know, if you want more in-depth information in terms of, you know, finance and how to structure and manage your money, you can definitely include that as well. You know, we take the time to reach out to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to help us grow the community, please do us a favor, like, share, and smash the subscribe button. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, blessings.